guys, and Happy New Year! So, in last week's video, I did the first page of my new sketchbook, and now I want to show you my old sketchbook. This is actually not my oldest sketchbook, if that makes sense. This is the very first sketchbook that I filled. So, I started drawing in 2020 as sort of a Corona, pandemic, lockdown hobby because I thought that I need another hobby besides video games. So I started drawing. And this sketchbook was the first one that I finished. I got this from my mom and it's from December 21 to December 22. And this is the first sketchbook that I filled. This is a Hanemühle toned watercolor sketchbook and the pages are this like sepia toned color, like this light brown color, and I really enjoyed it. When I got this, I actually was hoping for a portrait format sketchbook. These are stickers from an upgrade box because I was subscribed to Upgrade then, and I just figured I would put stickers on it. Why not? Everyone's doing it, so I'm doing it as well. I will also upload a version where I just flip through the pages without any commentary. So if you don't want to listen to me rambling on for approximately 30 minutes, then definitely check out the other video. And so yeah, this is my sketchbook. I started it December 17th, 2021, and I started it December 21st, 2022. So it took me about a year to finish. This is the first page, which I actually didn't do as the first thing in the sketchbook. I did this on January 19th of 2022, so about a month after I got this sketchbook first. So yeah, I do this with a lot of sketchbooks. I leave the first page blank and then I start on the second page. And then once I feel a little bit comfortable, when I feel like I am established in the sketchbook, then I go back to the first page and I do it. But that's just me. Everyone has their own approach. There are a couple of techniques. If you want to know those techniques, check out my video of last week where I actually do the first page of my new sketchbook. And I filmed the whole process, I gave you a couple of tips, and I also told you how I implemented those tips in the first page of my new sketchbook. If you really don't know how to fill the first page of your sketchbook, or if you're afraid of the first page because you might ruin your sketchbook, check out that video, it's really helpful. We can do this. So, first page, just some random Pinterest reference. I think this is the bridge that they also filmed a episode of Bridgerton on. I don't know. I found it on Pinterest. I thought it was beautiful and I drew it. So the actual first drawing I did in this sketchbook is this door. And also this is a Pinterest ref. And I did it in gouache. This is kind of a failed experiment for myself because I drew it in gouache and then I was like, well, what if I go over with colored pencil and get in a little bit of the texture of the wall because it was very plain and yeah. So I did that and my cheap colored pencils didn't really fare well with the texture of the paper, so it got really scratchy and not the smooth thing that I wanted. And then I drew in the doorknob with a golden acrylic pen and I was like, is this still wet? And I completely smeared it. So yes, safe to say it was still wet. But yeah. And then on the next page, I just searched some random antique keys and drew them. These were done with, I think these are the Karen brush markers. I'm not too sure. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed drawing the rusty texture of those keys. But ultimately, I didn't really use the Karen brush markers that much, so I gave them away to a friend who was really liking them, and she got plenty of use out of them, so I'm really glad I gifted them to her. The next pages, yeah, you can see I'm still really struggling with the landscape format. That's why every page is like this. So the next thing, this is also a reference from Pinterest. I really like the composition of the reference photo. I really like the angles, and it was a good practice piece to practice my perspective. And as you can see, I was really not proficient with watercolors. It bloomed and it got these like it bled everywhere, and I don't really get in any shadows or whatever. So it's just I want to redraw this by some time. So I think I can do much better now. But the perspective is still good on this. Like the stairs are a little bit crooked, but other than that, this is looking good. Like perspective, nailed that. The next page, also Pinterest reference from this old door with this like, I don't know, Roman or Greek entrance thingy. I really like the contrast of the like, what do you call it? Limestone, sandstone, a big chunky wall and the blue door, like the door was this color in the reference picture. It was just a really interesting doorway, and I drew it. I still really liked this piece, and I think I did the door, the blue and like greenish hue. I did this with watercolor colored pencils, and the rest of these, like the yellow and the browns, are, I think it's Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens, but I'm not too sure. Could be other felt tip pens, but I think it's Faber-Castell. Yeah, so next thing, another door. This one I found on Pinterest too. I really like the round curvature of the door. If you happen to look for urban sketching or door references on Pinterest, you might have come across this photo, this reference. Like it's everywhere. I see it every time I go on Pinterest. I see plenty of mood boards that have this exact reference. I think everyone who is starting out drawing doorways will draw this door once in their lifetime. I don't know. Once in their lifetime, you will draw it. The next thing, also Pinterest reference, kind of like an archway, and then you can see through it and have a little castle or a fort in the background. I don't actually know where this is. This sign on the reference says Porta Viuva or something like that. I don't know. I never Googled where it came from, but I still quite like this piece. Like the perspective's good. I put in a lot of detail. Shading is a little bit off, but for a beginner piece, like solid effort. Yeah. Next page. I was still really struggling with the limited art supplies that I had, and also the brown paper. It was a surprising challenge. This is also a Pinterest reference. I was experimenting with different textures for the bushes. I don't really think it came out good, but yeah. And this kind of like castle. I think that the yellow is a little bit too yellow, but that's where the sun really hit the stone, and I had limited art supplies by then, and I wasn't really feeling comfortable using watercolors in this at this point of time. So it's like the middle of January, it's a month in. Then I found this picture on Pinterest, I think it was. Yeah, Pinterest, it says here. This is just a simple one-point perspective practice with skyscrapers, like looking up into the sky, and then they're all... You can still kind of see the tiny little dots where I drew all the lines to, and then just gridded out the windows and the facades and everything. But I still quite like it. Okay, now we get into the gouache phase of the sketchbook. This is a forest scene. I Oh yeah, I used a reference from Unsplash there. I always wrote down like where I got my references from. So this is an Unsplash reference of a forest. It was really green and mossy, and the sun was kind of coming from the sides, and it had like this mossy green ground and some mossy stones, and everything was very green. But I really struggled because the gouache paints I used they were drying so much darker than what they were looking when they were wet. So I don't know, I was using the Himi gouache for this. I only have Himi gouache. And they dry so much darker. I don't know if it's the fault of the paper because it's toned, or if it's just a trait that gouache paints do have, but I remember, especially with this one, really struggling with the vibrancy. Maybe I have to mix in more whites and just get the vibrancy and lightness into the paints, because this is so much darker than the reference. But yeah, I still quite like them. This one, I think I drew this one from a video from Sarah Burns. She did a similar scene, but I watched her video and I was like, cool, I want to try it, and I painted this on my own without any reference, but I used the techniques that she explained, just not as proficient as she did. And then this one again is a Unsplash reference, and again the sky was so much lighter in the reference, but you work with what you've got. I still kind of like it. I still think it's cool, and honestly on camera it doesn't look that bad. Like the colors look better on camera than they do on than they do in real life. So yeah. Oh yeah, the page of failed experiments. So here with this page I was really fed up with the brown paper, and I was like, you know what, just put white underneath it. And I started putting a white gouache as a base layer, and then I was like, yeah, let's put watercolors over it. Yeah, stupid past me didn't realize that gouache is water soluble. You can reactivate this gouache with water. So me putting watercolor on top of it wasn't the brightest idea I ever had. So of course the white gouache reactivated, smushed together with the watercolors, and everything became a huge mess. It was awful. I was like, okay, I learned my lesson, never doing that again. And if I were to do it again, use white acrylic, because acrylic is not water soluble. Don't make my mistakes, people. Learn from my mistakes. This one again was a Unsplash reference. I didn't really get the angle of the hills right, and the sky is way too dark again. So yeah, I need to work on that. And then I did this little experiment. You might not see it, but I used this like wax sealant that should make the paintings like water resistant, and I tried it out. So I coated half of it with the wax sealant and I left half of it without it, and then I just splattered some water, and the half of the painting where I used the wax sealant was completely fine once I wiped it off. And then on this page, I don't know if you can see it, I will post in a close-up of it. There are some visible water damage spots, like especially like here, and you can see it in the greens too and everything. Like, of course, it's gouache, it reactivated, but the wax sealant really did its job, and I'm using it whenever I draw a watercolor postcard and I want to send it with the actual post and not just gift it to someone, and I will always use the wax medium to protect it against the weather, because I can't guarantee that the postcards are not getting wet. So yeah, but the wax sealant, really good. This again was an Unsplash reference. This is an underwater scene, which I still really like. I think I should have kind of layered some blues over it so that it kind of vanishes into the background, because now it looks like it's just, I don't know, like a meter or something, and then it drops off into the ocean. But yeah, I like it. And then this is a Patreon tutorial from Sarah Burns, and she explained how she painted the scene, and I just painted along. And as you can see, I finally figured out how to get the sky lighter. Just mix it with white. I know, amazing. This didn't turn out too good because I was using the wrong brushes. I couldn't get in all the details. I wasn't really confident enough in the like dry brushing of the rocks and everything. I don't really like it, but I mean, it's in here. Okay, and now we're kind of on a turning point in my art journey, because this was the first thing I painted on location. This is in the medieval city center of Cologne. I live in the outskirts of Cologne, so I often travel to Cologne. And I was meeting up with a friend, and we sat there and we drew it. And I drew this with a ink pen. And then later when I was home, I was like, let's put watercolor over it. And yeah, the ink in the pen wasn't waterproof, so everything kind of smeared together. So I was like, okay, that was a fail. Let's do it properly this time with waterproof ink on the next page, and kind of draw it again and learn from this and make it better here. And I still very much like this. I want to draw it again to kind of elevate it, but I really like this still, which now that I see that it's almost 1.5 years back in the past, I don't know if it's a good thing that I still like my drawings from then, but I do. I really do. I like it. All right, these are two of my, I don't want to say favorite paintings, because they're not as good as they could have been, but they are very emotional for me, because this is the castle, and this is kind of like a small church from my actual hometown. So I was born and raised in the town where these two buildings stand. So this is kind of emotional drawing for me. And that's why I still really, really like them. And actually this church has a graveyard behind its walls, and the grave of my family is there. So my grandfather and his family is buried there. Luckily, everyone else from my family is still alive. So only my grandfather is there, but yeah, family grave will get stocked up in the future. I am sure of that, because life usually ends steadily. But I really, really love this church, and it brings back some very happy memories and also some sad ones, as it does when you spend almost 18 years of your life living in one city. This again was a Pinterest reference of a castle in Budapest. And I remember really struggling with the perspective of the tower. And I still think that this is a little bit skewed. It looked different on the reference, but overall I am still really happy with it. And now, the big shift. This was the first time that I met up with the Urban Sketchers Cologne. Like, if you don't know what Urban Sketchers are, this is a worldwide organization, and they have bigger or smaller groups in every bigger city around the world. Like there's one in Cologne, Germany. There are multiple in the United States. They're in Australia. They're everywhere. And this is just a global community of painters and drawers, and they meet up in different cities to draw together on location. And this was actually the first time that I joined them. So I found them on Instagram, and I am a member of the Urban Sketchers Cologne ever since. And actually this year I am part of the organizing team, of the admin team of Urban Sketchers Cologne. So I got promoted. No, but this was the very first time that we met, and it was a beautiful day. This is in Cologne, in the city center. This is like a ancient part of the city wall where you can kind of enter the city, and it's still standing. And it's beautiful. This one was a Draw This in Your Style challenge on Instagram from at Reham MA. I don't know them personally. I only saw this photo of this storefront, and I found it really interesting because it was so skewed and so like interesting, and so many different things and complexities in this painting that in this photo that I really wanted to draw it, and I still like it. This is another building in Cologne. This is the Cologne Triangle. It is right across the dome on the other side of the Rhine, and you can actually take an elevator and get on the very rooftop. There is a terrace, I would say, a rooftop terrace where you have a 360 view of Cologne. It's really amazing. So if you're ever visiting Cologne, this is your place to go. And then, of course, the dome, the Hohenzollernbrücke, and this is viewed from the other side of the Rhine. So Rhine, the bridge where all the trains and everyone goes across, and the dome. I drew this on location in August. I think it was after work. So yeah, it's just, I really like this painting still. Then the next thing, yeah, this was also an urban sketching meetup where we met at the Rheinauhafen in Cologne. And this actually, a friend of mine gave me this, and it's kind of like a fantasy creativity inducing exercise where you just scribble and then you find shapes and forms and patterns in your scribble and do kind of like a Zen doodle out of it. Yeah, and I don't really like this. The perspective is off, the color is off. I don't know, I didn't have a good day of drawing that day. But this old like crayon, I don't know how you say it in English. Like these things are at the Rhine, and they used to haul cargo from ships into the docking houses that were there. And this is still up today, but it's out of order. It is out of service, so it's just there as kind of a statue to remind and teach about the history of the place. This was another failed experiment. This is also a non-splash reference, and I really just wanted to scribble something quick, so I did this Venice scene with acrylic pens, and yeah, I don't like it. I think you see why. This again is at the Rheinauhafen. It's another view, and I met up with a friend and we sat there and we drew this on location too. So 2022, so the last half of 2022 really was urban sketching for me. And then this is the old Essigfabrik. This is at the same location, like I think we changed position to somewhere here, because into this direction there is the Rhine, and this is the view you have from there. So this is on the other side of the Rhine, And this is this old factory that will be demolished sometime. I don't know exactly when or if they already started, but this will be demolished and there will be a new place for housing and commercial and just business buildings there. Oh yeah, this one. This was in Cologne-Rodenkirchen, which is somewhere in the outer skirts of Cologne. And we met up with the Urban Sketchers again, and we spent a very lovely day in Cologne. And I drew so much that day. So we started with this kind of storefront. I think there was a optician. Is that the word? Like someone who sells you glasses in here, and then really the angles of the building were very, very interesting. This was a scene that I drew when we had lunch on the central place at Rodenkirchen. This was an old gas station. It's still in... I think it's still in service, but it had this really interesting shaped roof and these old like gasoline thingies where you can fuel your car. It was really interesting. This is a church in Rodenkirchen, Alt Sankt Maternus. I did an Instagram short of this. I think I uploaded it to YouTube too. So if you want to see a speed paint version of this, I uploaded it. And this is a restaurant or cafe. This is a boat that is on the Rhine, because it's a boat, and you can actually go on there and eat and drink something. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really cool. I have never personally been there because whenever I go past it, it seems closed, so we'll see. Oh yeah, and this is a church in the Cologne city center. It is right next to, where are they? These houses that I drew. Yeah, so these are the houses, and this church is right next to them. It's somewhere here, like it's right next to them. So this was the same place. I still really, really like this. I drew this one again for a art competition, and it's actually in my coffee shop to grab, the original and for prints. So if you like this, well, not exactly this, but like the updated version, it is up. This is a view from the Colosseum in Rome. I think, yeah, Unsplash reference again. Oh yeah, and then I was like, well, it's already October, I have to get this book full. So I did some string art. This is where you dip a piece of string. I used like a wool knitting string and I dunked it into ink, and then I just laid it out in these like, spirals or whatever you would call them. And then I closed the book and I pulled it out. And this created these really cool patterns. Again, Urban Sketching Meetup. This is a mosque in Cologne. A very quick and very huge painting of the Eiffel Tower. I don't really like it because I didn't know what to do here, and I just left it like that. It looks unfinished. This, again, from Pinterest. I found this reference and I drew it. And then a friend of mine who saw me posting it was like, hey, isn't this the burrow from Harry Potter? And I was like, I don't know, I found it on Pinterest and I thought it was cool, but it is indeed the burrow from Harry Potter. And this is the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg. This is the big opera house in Hamburg. Again, Unsplash reference, not plain air. This was a really, really cool night photo I found on Pinterest again, and I wanted to paint it. I don't know how well the night is portrayed in here, but I really enjoy it. And this is again from Pinterest. This is a lighthouse. I don't think it exists in real life because I was really trying to find out where it is, but the only thing I found was this exact same reference picture, so I don't think that this lighthouse exists in real life. So sorry. Yeah, then I wanted to fill another page, so I did kind of like these little, what would you call them, where you blow on it and they twist, these little wind turbine thingies, play toy things for children. And I did them in rainbow colors. This is another house from Pinterest. The perspective is a little bit off. I didn't really take much time to do the details, but it's still, I like it, it's interesting. An old Land Rover. This one I found on Unsplash. This was the first time where I attempted to draw a car. Turned out okay. Oh yeah, this was a failed experiment for me. I used masking fluid to kind of create this stained glass effect, but it was such a hassle, and the results don't really justify the time it took to create. So I don't like it as much so that it justifies the time I put into it. This another Pinterest reference from a small hut in the woods. It's kind of like a foresty vibe, a autumn vibe. For practice, Pinterest is great, but if you want to create and sell paintings, don't use Pinterest references because usually they're copyrighted. Sydney Opera House, another big spread over 2 pages. Really turned out cool. I really like this one. Yeah, all the evolutions, so Eevee and all the evolutions that you can get from it. I found this on Pinterest too, and I found it really cool and wanted to recreate it. Eevee looks a little bit derpy, but that's because there is the page transfer, like the big gap in the pages, so that's why they look derpy, but in real life they don't look as derpy as on camera. And the last few pages, a little kitty and a hyacinth macaw. And yeah, 21st of December was the last time that I did. And then on the last page, this is what I always do. I try out my art materials and I wrote down what this is. So this is the Hahnemühle Tone watercolor book in beige. It has 30 pages, 200 GSM, and it cost 19.59 euros for me, but for my mom because she gifted it to me. So thanks, Mom. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tour. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This will mean the world to me. And please comment down below which of the drawings you liked most. I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.